Guys, Kev here, and I have 4 rapid reviews to do for you. So the first 2 are ones that I have shown a little bit. One I've shown a ton. The Berg Blades Mini Barber. And then I have the full-size Barber in a button lock version, which is very cool. So first, I want to give a big shout out to Matt over at Berg Blades. He was kind enough to send me these knives to review. This one is a prototype, and this one is a loaner. This is going back. This one I got in, and I did the unboxing. I loved it. He ended up telling me I could hang on to it, which was super kind of him. So big thank you to Matt for that. I truly was trying to figure out a way to get one of these during, I just moved. At this point, I was moving at the time, and I just couldn't be spending, the money at the time. And luckily, I didn't have to figure it out. But I did, if you can't tell, I did use it quite a bit during my move. And I will say, I have some feedback on it after that, because that was a true test. This is... This had to go through a lot of tape and a lot of cardboard and whatnot. And it actually did better than I anticipated. It didn't, crush, but that's sort of to be expected, right? You're looking at, 1, a smaller size knife, and 2, the biggest thing here is it doesn't have a very pokey tip. So it didn't excel at things like getting into boxes and whatnot. Luckily, I had this knife on me when I needed to get into boxes and such. I have a video that dropped previously on the Pioneer Jack. Now, this also doesn't have a very low tip, so I had to really get up there to get to the tip. It's a drop point, but it's on the higher end of a drop point when it comes to the tip, which is not ideal, but it definitely worked, and it worked much better than the Mini Barber would, because it just doesn't have a tip, right? But once, I was cutting through cardboard or anything like that, it did a really good job of it because of the ergonomics. At least in my opinion, that's why I can get such a comfortable grip on this knife. The way the handle is designed, it just melts into my hand. And my finger right here, index finger on this flat, my middle finger into the choil here, and then these 2 fingers into the flat down there, and then my thumb just right into this swell. It's just really well done. You have a nice hollow grind, so it comes down to a pretty thin edge. I really enjoyed cutting with this. Obviously, it's not the best box cutter type knife just because you don't get the best tip. But that's really the only downside to me. The action on this thing is phenomenal. I have skiffs in here. I would say at first glance, I kind of felt like the detent was a little softer than I personally would want. But after handling it and carrying it now for weeks, I feel like the detent on this thing is perfect. The reverse flick is money, and you get a satisfying pop out of it. You can see it drops on skiffs like a beast. Nice reach around. Really good jimping on that top flipper. I can get that top flipper real easily. I can roll it back if I really try. Not the best move for this knife just because it's sort of a flat top flipper. It's not a pokey one like this. But I gotta say, this is one of my favorite knives that I've handled this year. Matt is really swinging it this year for me, because between the Mini Barber and the Sweeney here, which is... man, pound for pound, this is probably my favorite knife of the year right now. For a minute there, it was the Relative from EDC. And then for a little bit. It was the Cavill Knives Denka. Still have that. Still love that knife. But it doesn't cut as well as others. And that does need to be a factor in Knife of the Year, I guess. Even though I'm doing a lot of fidgeting. But this one is so well-rounded, you know. Man, such a good knife, the Sweeney. And then, you know, you pair that with the mini Barber, and it's just a great pair of knives right here. So, Matt's really crushing it. And I love the bolster lock design. I love the pivot collars being micarta. One of my favorite things about the Barber and now the mini Barber and this Barber are the thumb studs. It was the first time I'd seen these studs on a knife, and they're just fantastic. They're nice and soft. They got this little bulb to them, which is nice and soft, but you can get under them and really give them a pop. The only downside to them is they do stick out a little more than I feel like other studs, so they could catch on something and maybe open out of pocket, but that has not happened for me on this knife. One thing I don't like about this knife, one thing that baffles me a little bit, is there's no steel lock bar insert. And I still have not asked Matt. I keep forgetting. But if you watch this, Matt, or if anybody knows why there's no steel insert on this knife, I would just love to hear it. Because it's not like it's a liner lock. That's usually when Riot does a no insert situation, like you have the F5 where it's a titanium liner lock. They can't get a steel insert on something that thin. This seems like it has enough space. They've done smaller knives with inserts, so I'd just be curious why. Now, that said, I have had absolutely zero lock stick. I honestly haven't even, I don't think, had to worry about it at all. Now, I do like to keep my knives clean, so I'll do this every once in a while, regardless of insert or no insert. But I've never had an issue with it. So if anybody is going to be trusted with it, it's Riot for me. So it's fine. It's not really an issue. It's just something I'm curious about. But that's really my only negative, I guess, about the knife. Other than maybe it doesn't have a really pokey tip, but that's just a design thing. So this one's a home run for me, guys. And it's going to sit there with the Sweeney, I think, for a long time. And then you have the full size in button lock form. And I really did not think I would like this. I just assumed it was not going to be better than the original. You know, the original Barber was a really cool knife. Is it my favorite knife ever? No, you know, I think it's really shines in the size of the mini. And the full size, you know, with the frame lock, it was scary because you disengage and this corner would just, you know, it was like a Chavez or an Evo. So that really gets solved here with the button lock. But I just anticipated it not having a good detent, having a bunch of like pivot lash or detent lash that you get from Riot button locks, and just overall not feeling as nice. But they crushed it on this. The feel is amazing. It really feels premium, you know, and that I feel like that's hard to do with a button lock. It's hard to do premium with a button lock. I really feel that way. I think a lot of people overlook things when it comes to that, but, you know, it bugs me a lot when I see premium button locks. But anyway, nice hollow grind, same tip situation here. It's just inherent to the design. It's not really an issue, but it's a thing. Same beautiful ergonomics, choke up grip, right into that poon. You can see I got plenty of handles, so for you folks with larger hands, you know, you'll enjoy it. Oh, that's one other thing that I don't love about the mini Barber or any Barber is the clip. Just very tight. It's a very tight clip, and it can be a little bit annoying getting it in and out of pocket. You got to really, you know, shove it. So she said, it's not a deal breaker by any means, but it is something I should mention. And that's going to be the same on this guy. Same awesome studs on it. But this one has a front flipper. Sort of reminds me of the GOM from Renegade. And it's a fantastic flipper tab. You can really leverage up on it and just fire it out. You can roll it back. You can reach around it. And that's the nice thing with the button lock. It doesn't have a super strong spring. It's not hard to break that tension. So it's fun to fidget with in all of those manners. Now, you do have that little bit of take up. You know, I don't necessarily call it detent lash, but if you do this, you can feel it bouncing, right? I will say with the studs, you don't feel it as much. That's the thing, by the way. Detent lash on thumb studs is always better than, say, a flipper tab. You're always going to feel it on a flipper tab, right? Because you're kind of just, you're going like this, and you get that motion, where with studs, you kind of just grip and rip, right? But anyway, very well done. The tension is strong enough. I mean, yeah, sure, I wish it had a stronger spring in there. But it's not bad by any means. You can see it. It fires that way, and definitely fires that way. So the button is nice. Very well done. It's recessed. It's got that cutout so that, you know, when you're over top of it, you have to really put pressure in that area to get it to go in, which is perfect. And overall, I just think he did a great job with this one. Titanium build, nice milling in there. I would love to have seen the bolster design come back on this one. But either way, very cool. This was a pre-order, and I think they're going to be available as soon as they come in. So he should have more. This was a drop, I believe, or maybe it was a pre-order before. But these have come in, and there are some available. I think he still has some available now on his website. He had them on sale for $275, which I think is a stupid good deal for a knife of this caliber made by Riot in these materials. Pretty sure it's M390/20CV. And I think they were also available at like Blade HQ or something like that. I will link whatever I can, and I highly recommend you pick this up at $275. The next one is going to be from White Mountain Knives. This is an exclusive. This is the Thunderbird. So this is the Vosti Thunderbird exclusive with White Mountain Knives. I just say that 2 different ways. This one's cool. I mean, they did a really good job with this. I forgot to look up the price, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that it's really reasonable. You're looking at 154 cm on it, and this beautifully sculpted aluminum. I couldn't show it that well in the unboxing, but you can see it's just got a depth to it. It's very, very nicely done. So I'm really impressed with how they did that. The one thing I find funny on this is I always tend to not close it. Like, it catches right before it closes, like right there. Just something that I tend to do with it. It does have a filler tab. You can reverse the clip. That filler tab sticks up ever so slightly, which is not ideal, but it's okay. Looks like we have T6s down here. T8 on the pivot. That looks like a T8 as well. Basic, you know, budgety deep carry clip. So, you know, they're looking to make this affordable, is what I would guess. It's around $100, right? Probably a little less considering it's Vosti. I think they make their own stuff, so they can afford to go a little lower than that. But you have a nice thin blade here. Feels like a hollow grind, actually. Very shallow one, but it feels hollow back here and then flat up here, so you get a sturdy tip and then a nice slicey grind back here. It is a compound grind. You can see that. It's got that machine satin look to it. Backspacer is cool, so no standoffs you'd normally see on something in this price range, or in this build range, whatever. I don't actually know the price, sorry. Lanyard pin is cool. And then you have the sort of patented Bastide button, which has like a collar to it. So I think there's actually some kind of design element there, but very cool. And then you have a sort of squared off, interesting looking flipper tab that works really well. Really catches your finger. They did a good job with the spring. It's got good tension to it. For me, it pops really well. And then you have this rounded off front flipper. So you can pop that as well. Maybe not my favorite. I really like a front flipper that's either a really cool like top flipper style thing, or I just want like the straight, you know, I just want this so I can get leverage on it and really pop it. These sort of in-between ones are not my favorite, but this definitely works. And then you have the hole. So you can reverse flick as well. You can thumb flick. Technically, there's a fuller there too, if you want to flick from down there, but I wouldn't do that. Ergonomics are pretty good. It's sort of got a taper from thick to thin. I don't love that personally on any knife, but it's okay back here. And then choked up, it's sort of an in-between sort of choil. And then you have this gap here. It's not the most comfortable. So I'd say overall, ergonomically, it's not my favorite. It just doesn't fit my hand. Like, my hand doesn't want to sit anywhere comfortably. Like, right here is probably the most comfortable. And then it kind of locks me back here because I want to put my thumb here, but that's not really comfortable. So it kind of locks me in here. And if I choke up, you know, I want to move forward, and I don't know. It's fine, just, I don't know. Very cool, though. So this is available at White Mountain Knives. I don't know when. It may have already dropped, so I apologize for that. I've been a little bit out of it lately, but I did get this in. I did buy this, actually, so I wanted to check it out and review it, and I will link what I can down below. The action on it is super smooth. I mean, it's a guillotine, but it's also solid, right? Like, has a good spring, no play in any direction. We could try giving it some good wax, and she's not going anywhere. So there is the Thunderbird White Mountain Knives exclusive aluminum edition. And the last knife here is going to be the Baku from Concept. And this is a Sparrow Knife Co. design. And I guess it's sort of a collaboration. And I really like this knife. It grew on me. I wasn't originally the biggest fan of it. And I'd say aesthetically, it's not like my jam. But I just grew to appreciate the design, the details, the little things here are really cool. The hidden screw titanium clip is nice. These little milling lines that you see here and it travels through here is really cool to me. The lanyard post thingy with the jimping is kind of cool. And then just the overall shape of the blade and handle is just unique. The Baku is, I believe it's a Japanese mythical creature that like feeds on dreams or something like that. Feeds on nightmares, something like that. He told me the story behind it. I'm sorry if I don't remember it exactly. But that's interesting, you know, that he has that kind of thought when it comes to the names, you know. The Strix, I believe, is also some kind of character like that. And then he's got one. I just bought a shirt. I got it today. It says Rougarou on it, which is another sort of creature from mythology of some, you know, kind. So very cool stuff there. But just look at it. I mean, it's very interesting. You know, it's unique and interesting. And it's comfortable in the hand. So it's still functional. Fits my hand really well. I used this a lot when I first got it. Carried it for like 3 days straight, I think, before I moved. and I enjoyed it. I will say, sometimes I get, like, bound up. Like, the detent just feels overwhelmingly strong, and I can't, like, flick it out. And I don't know what that's about. If it's just the angle I'm at or whatever. I do remember Greg saying that he added the studs on, like, afterwards. So I think he designed this to just be a flipper, if I remember correctly. It could be he designed it to just be a stud knife, but I'm pretty sure he designed it to be a flipper knife. And then, you know, right before production or something, he or Concept, whatever they were, you know, let's add studs to that. That could make it really fidgety, right? And that's what they did. And I think maybe that could be part of why sometimes it's just, you know, maybe the way, where the studs are in relationship to the pivot and everything, it can really feel super tight on the detent. And it needs to be a strong detent for the flipper. So I get it, and I appreciate it. I just have those random moments where I can't get it to fire. But the more I've had it, the less that has happened. It has a machine satin on it. And I believe these are available at Concept's website and Sparrow Knife Co.'s website. So definitely check both of those out. Greg sent this to me. So Sparrow Knife Co. sent this to me to check out. He did say I could keep this, so I will be passing this around. But so I would say go over to Sparrow Knife Co.'s website first and see if they have it, if you're going to pick one up. And then if they don't have the one you want, then go over to Concept's website, which I will link. I do have an affiliate link to Concept's website, but I'd like to push the traffic over to Sparrow Knife Co. if possible. Really cool titanium backspacer. I don't know. I just really like it. And then the other thing that really stands out to me on this one is the nested liner lock. So you see how this beautiful nested liner lock here. That's just unusual for this type of design, I feel like. Usually this would just be a frame lock and we'd be like, cool, it's a frame lock, you know? Here's one I just got in. This is a Concept, right? Yeah. This is a Maxron design, which is cool. You know, it's the Calibri tech. But like, this is what you expect, right? It's gonna have a line, it's gonna have a frame lock on it. It's just how it's gonna be. So the fact that this one was out of the box and then it had this nested liner was like, oh, cool, you know? So, size comparisons for this one. Oh, great. Here's that Calibri tech. This thing's a monster. But they're kind of twins. Look at that. Interesting. You know what I mean. Brothers. But that's a giant knife right there. I could just grab a ruler. Here we go. Your guys' favorite ruler. We are at right about 3 1/4 inches on the blade. And then we are at 4 inches on the handle. So if you can do math, that's 7 1/4 overall. Which is, I mean, perfect size for me personally. I like a knife that size. The flipper tab's really well done. I get a good angle on it. I get good purchase. Pops really well. Have no issues there. Centering is dead nuts. I mean, just really well done. Reverse grip's okay. You can do it. But I really like Greg as a person. I like Greg as a maker. I like Concept. So I'm rooting for this one. And it's just a cool design. The Baku from Sparrow Knife Co. and Concept. And then we had the full-size Barber button lock, the mini Barber frame lock, and we had the Thunderbird from Bastide and White Mountain Knives. They're exclusive in this cool sculpted aluminum. So let me know down below which one of these 4 is your favorite knife out of the bunch. I gotta say, the baby, I was going to call it the baby Barber, right? I feel like it should have been called that, but hey, I don't name them all. The mini Barber here just is epic. It really is. So that would be my first choice when it comes to these. The Baku would probably be second, just because I love this nested liner lock. I don't know. There's just something about this design that catches me, you know. I forgot to mention, it does have a Tanto point. So if you buy one of these, you're going to want to sharpen this edge and then sharpen this edge to keep that point. Unless you don't care, then you just sharpen it all and you'll round it off, which is fine. Then I would probably go, yes, I would go with the Barber button lock. This is a little larger than I normally like, heavier than I normally like. It's really, really cool. I just don't think I would personally buy it. But out of the ones on the table here, it's definitely the one I would go with. Fantastic knife. And then the Thunderbird here, just, you know, I'm not a big, I'm about to be super contradictory, but I'm not a big button lock guy. As I just said, I love this one. Yeah, just not the biggest button lock guy. I do, you know, there's exceptions, and this is really good. But they just don't get me excited anymore. So, anyway, that would be at the bottom for me. But all of these are really good knives. If you're picking them up, congrats. You got a great knife. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Leave your comments down below. I love you all. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. And I will catch you later.